Hey guys, this is Tia and welcome to my channel. I am the owner of Nail Dip Studio, an online nail boutique that specializes in acrylic dip powder. So if you're interested in any of the products that you've seen today in today's video, please head over to my website at naildipstudio.com. Now in today's video, we're going to get straight to it. Let's take the stress out of dip powder nails. It's easy, it's simple. Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. But you want to have a couple of little tips and tricks up your sleeve. And I think that this will definitely take your dip powder game to the next level. So I'm excited about today's video. As you can see here, I have one of the new shades that I just recently added to the spring summer collection, which is called For Your Safety. This is a beautiful canary yellow shade that will definitely get you a lot of compliments if you actually decide to purchase or try this shade out. So it's gorgeous. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous shade that I must say looks amazing on so many skin tones and complexions. So check it out if you can. In today's video, we're taking the stress out of our dip nails, and I'm also going to be showing you some new tips and techniques that I've started to incorporate into my day-to-day dip manicure routine. So part of that is making sure that instead of starting midpoint, we're going to push this back just slightly. And the reason we're going to push this back just slightly is because I want to make sure that first layer, that half layer is the foundation to the entire dip manicure. It will definitely make or break your end result. Like there's no way around that. It's either going to make it amazing or you're going to be mad as hell. And the reason that a lot of people are mad is because they don't really know where to place that first layer. Should it be midpoint? Should it be just slightly back? Now, I will say this. There are some caveats to this statement that I'm about to make. If you already have a natural curved nail, like your natural nail plate has a slight elevated or an extreme elevated apex in the middle, like you already have that layer there, then you can skip this step. You don't have to actually, create that step. You can just go in with a full, I would say a 3/4 layer of the clear powder just to have a base there so that that pigment doesn't stain your nails. But if you are trying to create height because you have a slightly flat nail or you just like that look, this is the step. These are the steps. This is the video for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab an alcohol wipe. I always wipe my natural nails down. So after I do my dry manicure, I will wash my hands, and I wash my hands really, really good using a brush. And then I go in behind that and I will wipe my nails down with alcohol just to make sure that I remove any potential leftover product that may be there. And I also want to make sure that I am removing any moisture and oils that may be there as well. I'm then going to grab my step one, which is my primer, and I'm going to apply the primer to my natural nails. And I usually like to do about 2 layers. So again, wipe your nails down with the alcohol and apply 2 layers of the primer before you move on to your first layer. So now that we've finished wiping and prepping our nails, we're ready for our first dip layer. This is going to be the clear layer. And I always like to put this down, the clear layer down. I had a friendly exchange from one of my viewers regarding whether or not, I always use clear. And I do. And I do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I want to build my apex. So I want to create a natural curve to the nail. But then I also want to have a protective barrier between the pigment and my natural nail. Because sometimes the pigment can stain your natural nail. So I always use clear as my base, as a base layer. First layer I put down. Now, the point of me showing you where I'm starting is that I'm slightly moving the initial layer back, and I would say I'm moving it back to maybe like the 3/4 mark. And I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. I want more of a natural takeoff. Think of a plane sort of taking off to go into the sky. You kind of want that nice transitional upflow versus having it in the middle where it's just like literally like a speed bump, right? It's too abrupt. So I'm trying to create a natural curve, and I want that curve to start a little further back than where I used to start it. Now, again, this is just something that I've noticed over the years for myself. I play around with my placement, but I actually have been liking putting it slightly back. So this is going to be maybe 3/4 of the way. If you want to call it 5/8 of the way, you can do that. But I like to do that. Also, too, when you are starting your right before you actually dip your finger into your powder, and the name of this shade is for your safety, but I like to do a stir, and then I like to check to see if I have any sort of clump product that may be left over in the powder. I want to remove that because I don't want to add those clumps, those lumps to my nails, especially if it was something from the previous manicure. Okay. So, also, in taking the stress out of your dip powder nails, you want to start your next layer, your color layer, slightly behind the layer that you just put down, that clear layer. And you still want to avoid those side walls. Now, if you're going for more of a wider, bulkier look, then by all means, add the side wall, add the product to the side walls, add the powder to the side walls, and make it as wide as you want. But I go for a more narrow, tapered look. So that's not the look that I'm going for. Also, too, one of the biggest stressors that I find that people have is that they don't remember how many layers they put down. So instead of trying to remember off the top of your head how many layers you put down, I have a rule of thumb. I write on my paper towel or napkin, whichever one I'm using, the amount of layers that I want to put down based on the pigment and the product. So right here, you can see I have a half layer. So I have 0.5 there. So that stands for that first clear layer. And then I have maybe one, two, three, four, five more sticks going down. So I'm adding like 5 3/4 of the layers to my nails. And it may sound weird, but this is my sweet spot. You got to find your sweet spot. Dip nails are similar to like coffee. Like everybody has a preferred or a preference on how they like their coffee. Some people like their coffee black. Some people like white mocha. Some people may like a little caramel macchiato. It's all about your preference and what you take in your coffee. So dip powder nails, same thing. If you have more of a stronger natural nail, you can get away with 3 layers, maybe four. But if your nails are not as strong, or if you have activities that cause your nails to constantly break, then you want to add additional layers. And I can assure you that my nails don't look bulky, even though I have 5.5 layers, because also remember, we're going to file some of this off. So by the time we get finished, we're going to be back down to like that 4 layers. But we got to start, we got to go in higher to come down to where we want. It's almost like negotiating your salary, right? You want to go in, if you know you want $150,000 as a salary, you go in and you ask for 180. So that when they come back and say, well, we can't do 180, but maybe we can do 160. Now you're 10,000 over where you want it to be. Because if you go in asking for 150,000, they're gonna lowball you and bring you back inward. So you might as well go in high so that you can then get to the point that you want to be at. So that was just something I literally just told somebody this. So this is something that I do with my dip nails. And then also too, when you are applying your layers, always start slightly behind the last layer and just keep inching closer and closer to the cuticle line without flooding. It's simple. You don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't want to have a lot of product on your brush. When you notice when I pull my brush out of the base coat, step number 2, I'm only using what's on that brush, and I allow gravity to pull down any of that base product that may be still on that stem, because it's going to replenish those bristles, and you want that. Also, notice how my finger is in that powder. I'm not dipping my finger into the powder and pulling it out immediately, right? Because that's a false that's just not creating the type of color payout that we want. And also too, it doesn't allow the powder and the pigment to I'm sorry, the powder and pigment one, but it doesn't allow it to bond with the base coat. And because of that, you're going to get uneven color distribution. The color distribution that you have will not look right. You're going to have splotchy color on your nails. And also too, fix any mistakes. If you have a little flooding on your side walls and you want to just scrape that over, push that over some. But don't do it to the detriment of the manicure. Meaning, if you're pushing it over or trying to fix that, clean that up on the side walls, and you're noticing that it's not moving quite the way that you want it to, then what I would say is just leave it there and let's fix it on the back end. We'll always fix it. And I'm going to leave this here. I decided to do that because in some cases, you just don't want to disturb the integrity of the dip manicure. Okay. Now, as you can see, I'm scratching out every layer. It makes it easy for me to remember. Again, we're taking the stress out of. Take your napkin, write the layers down that you want, and also to keep count of that. When you go back to do your next dip manicure, let's say if you use 4 layers, but you had 2 cracks and the corner of your nail broke off, then I would say add a layer. Find your sweet spot. Once you find that sweet spot, ride that thing through. That's what you need to do your day-to-day activities, okay? Also, look at how I'm rotating my finger and placing my finger on the rim of the powder. I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I need to place my finger on a surface that is still gives me support, but also allows me to rotate in such a way that I can see all angles. I can see if I missed a spot. I'm going to then slightly pick my powder up and tilt it and then insert my finger. So it gives that sort of angled insert. And I'm leaving my finger in the powder and then tapping it off with my other hand, not to disturb any of the powder before it's ready to be touched. A lot of times we're touching the powder and the powder don't even want to be touched. The powder's like, wait a minute, give me a minute. I need to wait. I'm not ready. Sometimes you just got to let it sit. And I like to let my nails sit for at least a minute before I go in with my the dust brush and dust off the extra. This is, again, a slight little tip, but I think that it's important to point out that you don't see me as soon as I finish with one finger dusting that finger off. I complete the entire hand, then I dust off the extra, just so that, again, before I move on to the next layer or, finish things out by applying the bond, I am ensuring that I can see. I allow the powder to settle, really, really soak into that base coat before we dust anything off. And again, look how I'm holding my finger. Look at that. It's sitting in there. It's sitting in there. It's sitting in there. It's sitting in there. Now I'm ready to pull it out. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Okay. Make sure that you're also tapping your powder to make sure that you're evening out the layer, the powder itself in the container, and then also too that you're releasing any air pockets that may have been caused by you inserting your finger into the powder. Sometimes you can create these little cavities or crevices inside the powder, and that can also play with your manicure. Okay. Notice I'm letting the powder right here settle. I'm just letting it settle. I'm not doing anything. I'm just like, let me just let this settle for a slight second or two. Then I'm going to move on to my next layer. And again, you see how the X's are coming down. I'm just striking through the next layer and making sure that once I start that layer, I go in and then I strike through. I go in, I strike through, and you'll see me do that in a few seconds. But again, avoiding the cuticle line, because I don't want to flood the cuticle, because I have to shape around that. And if I have to shape, well, not if I have to, because we know we have to, but in shaping around that, I need room to work. I need room to apply not only the nail file, but if I'm doing my manual file or my e-file, I have to have room to work. So you really don't want to do a lot of flooding, which is why I'm saying starting those layers and then gradually pushing it back until you get to that cuticle area, that cuticle smile line is going to be the great. It's like it's the difference between making your dip manicure look professional and that of an amateur, like you can see. Now, yes, do I need to do some cleanup and shaping and molding and fouling? Absolutely, and we will address that. But flooding where? Where is it flooded on the cuticle line? I'll wait. Yeah, just sitting here waiting for you to tell me where I flooded it. Oh, you didn't have it? Okay, yeah, didn't do that. Okay, and so the reason that you don't see all of that is because, again, thin layers, and we're gradually pushing the product closer and closer and closer to the cuticle line. And once I'm satisfied with that, I'm done. Okay, I'm done. Also, too, by applying and starting our base layer, by applying our base layer slightly back from where we would have started in the middle, but taking it back 3/4 of the way, this is also giving us an opportunity to create more even color distribution, taking the stress out of, wow, my nails look amazing towards the end, but I don't have that same color payout throughout the entire nail. Now you will. Always rotate your finger from side to side because sometimes we miss the spot, right? And then just take your time. Don't rush yourself. Put on the Diplomat from Netflix and watch the entire series through and through. I think it's 8 episodes. It was pretty good. And again, shape and file your nails. Do this on a Sunday or on a Saturday if you want to do it on Friday night. But take your time and do it. And I promise you, your nails will come out amazingly. Now let's seal everything. Now, this is a debate that I have in the comment section from time to time for some people. Do I really need to apply clear? Do I have to apply the clear powder to my nails? I mean, do I really have to? Etc. etc. You don't. You don't. You don't have to apply it. But just know that by not applying it, you're fouling off and buffing off your pigment. And that's probably another reason why you don't like dip powder nails, because you cannot buy the powder and not seal it with anything. You can't. It's not going to work. Short of you having clear, like if you're doing like just a clear on clear, sure, you don't have to reseal clear with clear because it's already sealed. But any powder that has a pigment element to it, I don't care if it's a transparent pigment. I don't care if it's a pigment that does not have a white base to it. If you have any powder that has pigment in it, you want to make sure that you are sealing that and encapsulating that pigment with the clear powder. Once you've done that, once you've applied your clear powder, then dust off the extra. Allow your nails to settle for a second. Grab step number 3, which is the bond. This is going to create that seal, and it's going to help to start to cure your nails to make them hard. You want this. Now, you don't have to apply step number 3, but just know that it's going to take about 20 to 30 minutes for your nails to fully set. Whereas by applying step number 3, the bond, in this particular case, it will take give or take about 3 minutes, 4 minutes for your nails to actually set and settle. Now, also remember, I started at the top of the video where I said I prefer a more tapered, narrow looking nail. What you see me doing is you see me pinching. I am pinching that nail and creating and molding as it's starting to settle to sort of over direct it into the position that I want it to be, because I'm going for a more narrow look. I don't want that wide look. Again, that's not my zhuzh. That's not what I like. I like more of a tapered, narrow look. And I find that by pinching and then blowing at the same time. So I'm pinching my nails and then I'm blowing on that nail just to make sure that I am speeding up the curing process, but also locking in that pinch. I want that narrowness that's applied when I pinch to settle in. This is going to help start to train the way that my natural nails are shaped, because on the outside, I'm pinching. I'm pinching the product, and the product is starting to mold. Okay, so now that we're done with that, we've pinched everything, everything is set. You want to check to make sure your nails sound like this before you start filing. You want to make sure that you have your nail file. You want to make sure you have your buffer. Now, I personally only use a 100 or 180 hand file when I am filing my dip nails. It's my preference. I'm sort of middle school, so I can go either way. I could do e-file or I could do handheld, but I prefer a handheld because back in the day, that's what we had. And so I'm definitely more comfortable. I'm comfortable either way, but it's just easier for me. My go-to, like, I'm naturally going to default to what I grew up on, which was just having the hand file as the actual file that I use to sort of shape and mold my nails. Again, this is some may call it old school, but again, I love a good hand file job versus an e-file. Not to say that I don't use it, but again, it's just my preference. Now, I'm using alcohol and a lint-free wipe to wipe off my nails because I want to make sure they're clean before I jump into the filing process. We're going to remove some bulk because there's a little bulk that I need to take off, but not too much. And we're going to use the 180, we're going to use the 100 side for that to remove that bulk because it takes it down quick and fast. However, you have to be careful because if you go in too aggressive on the 100 side, you can take off too much product, breaking the seal, the layers that you've actually added onto your dip, onto your natural nail. You can break that seal, and now the integrity of your nail is just not there, and you don't want that to happen. So I remove the bulk and then I switch it over to the 180 side. Now the 180 side is going to be a finer nail grit. It's something that allows you to take off, and you can control the amount of product that you take off. You're not taking off so much product that you can't, or that you have to go back in and add an additional layer or two. So that's why I prefer to have the 180 side. Also notice as I'm filing my nails, I'm rotating my hand underneath the file. I'm not rotating the file, but I'm rotating my hand because I have that control. That's another tip. Take the stress out of trying to rotate your your opposite hand, especially when you're doing your filing. You don't want to rotate the nail file. I rotate my finger under the file. I just find it's easier for me to do so. And then what we're doing is, again, just making sure that we shape and mold and we take our time. You don't want you don't want to take off too much product that you don't have the layers that you need to keep your natural nail strong. You don't want to do that. Using anything higher than like a 100 nail grit, in my opinion, is just too harsh. Now, if you have, and dip powder is not as hard as like powder with monomer. Like, it's just not as hard as that. Like, that's a different level of stiffness, if you will. And so, yeah, I can see going from a 100 to a 90, even to an 80. But in this particular case, because dip powder is so gentle and so finely milled, you only really need the 180 side to actually mold and shape your nails once you remove your bulk. And again, This is just a process that I follow, but I think that it's a pretty good one, if I must say myself. So you want to make sure that you're pushing back any skin to help really expose and seal your cuticle area. And what I mean by seal is this: if when I push back the cuticle to get to that product, right, I am trying to make sure that I am smoothing that out, but also too, I want a flat ledge. I want that takeoff runway to be as flat as possible. I want it to look like the product is growing out of the nail matrix. I want it to look like it's coming out of my actual skin. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to push your skin back slightly, and then using the natural outline of your cuticle and your side walls, you want to use that 180 side of the nail file to just buff things down, file things down, and make it as smooth as possible going forward. And notice how I'm filing that free edge, right? I'm filing it from one side to the other side. I'm rotating my hand. I'm always checking my work and making sure that I like the result that I'm seeing. Using that brush, it's a little stiffer to remove any dust, to remove any residual particles from the nail file. And then I'm going to go in with the nail buffer. Now, I am applying gel at the end, and you don't have to do this step if you are applying gel. But for someone who is using the traditional step number 4, which is the traditional dip powder top coat, which is basically the resin. If you're using the traditional liquid, then you want to buff. Not buffing will definitely, most definitely, show the texture through that traditional top coat. If you are adding gel polish on top of your dip manicure, theoretically, you do not have to buff your nails. You can just shape everything, wash your hands, come back, apply your base coat, and then apply your top coat. I still buff because I just like that gel look, that gel polish look. So I go ahead and buff. Once I finish doing my buffing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up the free edge underneath my barely there nails. Now, here's why that's important. I'm going to show you a picture in a second. I'm going to show you a little clip. This is hideous. Like this lumpy bumpy. This looks like it's just not what that would irritate the hell out of me. I would be picking at this, like crazy. So I'm going to clean that up. But notice how my finger is I'm pushing that skin back with my thumb. I'm pushing that back, but I'm also using my thumb as a barrier between the my nail, because that point to this file is very, very sharp. It is very sharp. And what you don't want is you don't want that slippage. And now that point has gone into your nail underneath that free edge, and now it's penetrated your skin. You don't want that. You want to go on the very low setting. So I'm probably not higher than like a 2. Yeah, see, I'm forward 2. So very low speed. And then again, just using the free edge of my thumb to use as a barrier between the nail plate and the actual e-file, so that I'm not damaging my natural nail. And you want to take your time with it. And again, just go from side to side. You just want to see what that looks like and file things off. You don't have to be very aggressive, but you want to make sure that your arm is very steady. So I'm holding my arm and pressing my arm very tightly and closely to the table, almost creating almost like a barrier. And then I'm not allowing it to move but so far, because I need to have control, because I don't want to lose control, especially with such a sharp instrument at this moment. This can lead to infection. So please, please, please listen to me. If you're going to be using these pointing, and as you can see, all of those bits have points to it, you want to make sure that you are anchoring your arm so that you have better control of your utensils. Your utensils can get away from you, and once they've gotten away from you, you could damage yourself or hurt yourself in the process. So just use that as a tip. Now, anything else that I need to go up and clean up, like any dip powder that may have gotten underneath my free edge, and that happens from time to time, I'm taking some of my nippers and I'm just going through and I'm just trimming away at the product. I'm not trimming away at the skin. I'm just focusing on, let me remove this extra product that I have here because I don't need that product there. Okay. Now I'm going to take a micro Q-tip. I'm going to grab some of my alcohol and I'm going to clean up that free edge and just make sure that underneath my nails, I'm cleaning up the free edge underneath my natural nails, just making sure that I got everything out and I don't have any additional product or residue left there before I go and wash my hands. Now that I've washed my hands and I've allowed my hands to properly dry, I am going to wipe my nails down. I did that off camera, I believe, or I'm about to do it now. Wipe it down with some alcohol just to make sure that I don't have any residual soap or oil from the soap on my hands. And then I'm going to apply the base coat. going to apply one layer and I let that cure for 60 seconds. I'm then going to apply 2 layers of the glaze gel powder. I'm sorry, the glaze gel polish. The glaze gel polish, which is my top coat. And I like to apply 2 layers and always sweeping those free edges. And I'm going to cure each layer in between 60 seconds. And then at the end, I will be applying my moisturizer. Hopefully this helps. Again, just taking the stress out of doing your dip nails. It's so easy and so simple. Pause this video, save this video, share this video, and I will be back with more videos to come. I have a couple of requests from some people, some viewers, so I want to make sure that I get those requests going so that I can honor my commitment. So again, thank you again for watching. Until next time, keep dipping, everyone. Bye.